Alright, good afternoon. I've decided I want to make another video about this movie, One of Us. I mean, first of all, the title, I mean, most people probably would not be aware of this, but if you're a film student, which I assume if you're going to make a documentary, you must have studied film. Where does that come from, One of Us? And there was a movie in 1932, very controversial film called Freaks, that Todd Browning made, and there's the one scene of a wedding, and all of the, various people who were called the circus freaks. I don't like to use that term, but they were banging on the head, "Google gobble, one of us," and essentially by picking this title, One of Us, the producers are basically saying that Hasidic Jews are freaks. And that's a very offensive, microaggression there. But putting that aside, although the fact of the matter is, if you watch the movie, you'll know that the real monsters were not the quote-unquote freaks, but the people running the show, and it's really true here as well. Now, there's one scene in this movie where a young man, he goes to a barber shop, they cut off his beard and payas, and then he goes to Simcha Space She'eva in Borough Park. Some people say some things to him, I don't know if it's staged or what, it looks kind of staged. And then he goes to, and then there's another scene, he's sitting down with a very Choshev Askin, Yosef Rappaport, a very fine person who does wonderful, wonderful work in the community. He has a soup kitchen, Masbia. He does very great work in the community. For some reason, I'm not sure why, 2 years ago, we used to have conversations on Twitter, and I'm not sure why, but he blocked me. I just noticed this now. Maybe I noticed at the time, I'm not sure, but I thought it was kind of strange. We were having an intelligent conversation about the history of anti-Semitism and the meaning of anti-Semitism and the usage of the term anti-Semitism, and I thought it was an intelligent conversation, and I guess he was offended by it, and if it's so, I apologize, and I asked Mechila, I hope maybe Rabbi Yosef's going to see this, but I had a big problem with the video. I'm going to be done with Kaf Schus, that because I know I've been in many documentaries myself, and I know that they tend to film a lot and only use 2 or 3 minutes here and there, if they even use that. I remember there was one documentary where they were interviewing all the rabbis in Richmond, Virginia, their opinion about Israel and Zionism. They must have filmed me for about 2.5, 3 hours, and they didn't use 1 minute for me in the film. I think it's on YouTube or Vimeo. You can see it online. Because I was too edgy and I wasn't saying the party line. They weren't Jewish. I didn't know what they were looking for. Now, you would have thought, they want to present both sides, or they didn't use one minute of me in the film. Recently, I was interviewed for another documentary, and they interviewed me for about 2 hours, and I know they're only going to use a minute, 2 minutes, from what they filmed. Maybe it'll be in the special features, I don't know. But that's how the documentaries. I'll be done with Kaf Schus. I'll judge favorably with Yosef that he did say the right thing, and that the filmmakers and the editors specifically took what sounded the worst to put Orthodox Judaism in a negative light. Yisrael David Weiss, who I know is a controversial person, I don't agree with him on a lot of things. But I remember I was talking to him once about this film that he was in, Religulous. He didn't know who Bill Maher was. He didn't know why Bill Maher was interviewing him. He just, he's a person who has his opinions, and he always talks openly about them on all kinds of forums. And there's this one scene in the film, and they talked to him for, and Yisrael Dovid told me he must have interviewed. He sat with Bill Maher for, I don't know, 3-4 hours probably, and he used in the film a couple of minutes, probably less than 5 minutes. And at one point, Bill Maher says, everybody else says never again, and you're just saying again. And then it shows Weiss. He said, yeah. So obviously he didn't say yeah then. That's just a false thing that they put into this film. And of course, you expect an oisvarf like Bill Maher. I mean, the thing is, Bill Maher used to be, even though he was politically incorrect, quote unquote, but he tended to have a certain, at least fiscally, he was right wing, and then it wasn't popular anymore, so he had to switch to the left. He's a phony. He's just a total oisvarf. But that's who a lot of these films, and I get wary when I make these films, when I get interviewed by these films, am I going to be abused, more or less, just like Weiss was in this. Obviously, he didn't say anything like, everyone else says never again, and then you say again, and they say, yeah, of course he had some other answer in explaining, but Bill Maher had his agenda, which is to make religious people look silly, and that's why he made this. And so too, I'm going to be done the Kaf Schus, the same thing with Rabbi Yosef Rappaport. As far as how he approached, and he said, there's a group think. Now he could have explained that a little bit more, meaning you're going into the secular world. With with certain things, it's not acceptable. Oh, maybe it might be acceptable to go in the secular world with a Shtreimel and Bekashem. Maybe that they don't care, but certain parts of the secular world, and even certain parts of the religious world, if you're a fan of Donald Trump, they look at you like a Nazi, and I think a lot of people probably secretly like Donald Trump, but they're so afraid that they have to say something, that they don't want to offend people, and so either they keep their mouth shut or they pretend they don't like him, and they probably voted for him because they knew he would do a better job. So he could have, but again, if you explain too much, they're going to edit it out. So you got to be very careful when you're speaking in these documentaries. Pick your words exactly, because more likely than not, whether honestly or dishonestly, it might be just out of ignorance, they're probably going to take something you said out of context, make it look bad. That really wasn't my issue. My real issue was when this young man said, he's not sure that he believes in God. Excuse me, maybe I need a drink. I'm going to do it. Was this Marco Rubio did that? He took a drink when my throat is hurting. Really need a drink. All right. Let's try to balance everything together. So anyway, that being said, I'm gonna let everybody pass me here because I don't know if there's a cop behind me. Oh, it's not. So he said, us in the Hasidic culture, we don't delve into philosophy. Does God exist? Doesn't God exist? We just accept it. We don't ask questions. And maybe it doesn't work for you, but it works for thousands of people, and it's worked for thousands of years. Now, first of all, that's not true. I finally got to the punchline, and someone calls me. All right, let me turn this off. We're going to continue. All right.